Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be talking about why Darkseer, in my opinion, is one of the best, if not the best offlaner to pick right now when it comes to winning solo queue matches. This hero does require a bit of time and practicing, especially the laning stage, as it's definitely not one of the better laners, but its ability to mid-game teamfight and turn around matches is absolutely incredible. On top of that, it really takes advantage of high agi carries, and that's definitely the meta right now. Your Spectres, your Lunas, your Terrorblades are all in the meta, your Medusas, right? And whenever you make a wall of replica illusion of them, it just absolutely decimates the enemy team. And so when you combine that with the new Aghanim Scepter, your hero absolutely pops off. And so today we're going to look at some fights, some brawls, some duels in a losing Darkseer match. He ends up winning the game, but they were 15k behind at 20 minutes, and yet they still win, and it shows the power of Darkseer. And let's get into it. By the way, guys, if you want to become absolutely broken, well, what you need to do is sign up to the gameleap website down below right now. The reason why you should do that is because every single day we post a new video there. Content that you simply just will never get on YouTube, we post every single day to the website. It's really top tier stuff. I'm very proud of what I make over there. We also have other creators, many of my great friends who are top tier Dota players, creating guides about different heroes, different roles, different items, skill builds, talent builds, everything you need to know to get to the next rank. So if you feel a little bit lost, you're a little bit stuck, click the link down below. I'll see you guys there. And now let's get into the video. So getting into our first example of the game, you can see the match. This is what you call a losing match, you know? Whenever you're 17k behind against a Spectre, right? A Spectre at 20 minutes, you know it's probably not a good sign. Now, the enemy team has an Aegis, but this is the thing about losing matches, especially against Darkseer. When people are winning, they get overconfident. And whenever you have this Aghs timing, all of a sudden you can have 3 to 4 teammates with an Ion Shell on them. An Ion Shell that also gives them 300 health and lasts for 20 extra seconds. And therefore, your team can do 360 damage per second if you have 4 Ion Shells on someone per second to, whoever you go on. And in this clip here, you're going to see exactly that. They're 17k behind, TA has an Aegis, they have a support Faceless Void, but all of a sudden, this support Faceless Void, who is beyond worthless, right? Because who can follow up Chrono? They don't really have the best follow up to Chrono, but he just has an Ion Shell. He just runs around with an Ion Shell with 300 extra HP and does stuff. This Slark, this sort of low damage carry, right, has an Ion Shell. This mid Sand King, a hero that lacks damage in most games, right? A hero that does his number, right? He does his damage, then doesn't do anything else, has an Ion Shell. And so now this team fight where they would usually lack damage, a losing team that's 18k behind would usually lack damage, doesn't lack any damage. And that's exactly what happens. The TA gets gone on, and you can see, obviously Darkseer doesn't really do anything in the fight, but it's just the residual damage. TA absolutely melts, a decent Chrono ends up coming out, he kites to the outside, continuing to reapply shells to whoever needs it, ends up getting a really nice 3-man vacuum, clumping up for the Ion Shells, and the fight turns around. Obviously this game doesn't end right here, but you can see what I'm talking about. This is why he's good in pubs. Even when your team's behind, you have one good vac with a couple of shells around, and your team can come back. The next thing I want to mention is, you ever feel like when you're losing, you can't farm? Well, that's just not a problem for Darkseer whatsoever. It's not. This hero is actually really easy to farm with, which is why I'm recommending it to you guys so heavily. You know that I have a very strong opinion on farming. If you don't farm in your solo queue games and continue to split push the game, regardless of how it's going, you're not gonna win, especially when you're losing. And so for Darkseer, it's really simple. You put a shell on a creep, and it's guaranteed to shove the wave unless someone responds. And in solo queue matches, people usually don't really push in side lanes nearly as much as they should. So when you shell a creep like this, it's going to have this God Ion Shell that lasts for an extra 20 seconds, and most importantly, you can see that the creep has 886 HP compared to the usual 586, which means it's not going to die. And so yeah, it's exactly what you'd imagine. This top wave, if no one responds to it, will get completely shoved all the way to this tier 2 simply by one Ion Shell. And in particular, as we look at another fight here where he basically just walks around Ion Shelling people, is the fact that this hero is so versatile. In losing games, you play like a support. You occasionally shove waves, and then in the fights, you just stand in the back and buff up your other heroes. Optimally, you do want to encourage your teammates to pick these melee initiators when you're playing Darkseer. Otherwise, you can fall into the classic Drow Darkseer combo, which, vacuum gust, okay, it's alright. But yeah, in this game, he's just an absolute supporter, but in the next game I want to show you guys, he's going to be, an alpha Chad, right? This guy who just runs around in the fights, tanks all the damage, soaks it up, provides all the vision, tanks all the spells, and just allows his team to do whatever they want. But in these team fights, he's not really doing much. He's kind of just kiting around. Obviously, he's taking some damage after all. When you have an Ion Shell and an Essence Ring, you still have 2,500 HP, which is absolutely nuts, considering he's level 14, which is kind of funny, because his position for Mirana is level 18. He's literally 4 levels below his Mirana, but that's the thing. It's okay on this hero. Even though I wouldn't recommend trying to fall this far behind on, as an offlaner, sometimes that happens. You have like a bunch of greedy teammates. I mean, look at his team. They all kind of need some items, and therefore he gets sacked quite a bit, but it doesn't really end up mattering. In fact, it just allows his teammates to excel, considering you don't need anything on this hero, which is also a point I wanted to briefly make before we get into the next clip, which is you can buy whatever item you want. This game he goes Lotus, he wanted some armor and the ability to purge track, and so that's what he does. Okay, before we get into the actual team fight where we kind of show off the Alpha Chad version, you know, the Sigma version of Darkseer, I just want to show you this really cool play by 33 on his Darkseer. So this is a pretty standard thing. When you hit level 3 on Darkseer, your shell goes from 30 to 50 damage. It just kind of feels like you can start to dive people at this point, especially when you get 2 shells out with your melee support, or even range. So yeah, they end up diving, they get these nice set of kills, but what's special about this play, other than the fact that he does a really good job of killing off the Sven with the level 2 vacuum, which you'll now be taking, considering Vacuum does 100 damage, which is freaking insane. What he does after that is he actually de-aggros, but then he's like, wait, I have no bottle charges, no mana, and no way to play the lane, so he actually moves his camera to bottom. This is him doing this. He moves his camera to bottom, right-clicks on the Beastmaster, which is going to aggro the tower, and kills himself. And the reason why he does this is, if Sven was to come back to the lane with the AA, and he has the current resources he has no play. He's gonna get kicked out of the lane, killed by Sven, and his whole lead will go away. So I just thought this was really cool. I love to see this type of stuff where players are heads up about their deaths. This used to be a thing for the mid lane for a while, and I just think it's super legit, even in the side lanes, if you have these scenarios come up. And to end off the video, here's the fight I want to show you guys. He's really farmed. The Darkseer we saw in the last game got a 19-minute Ags. In this game, he took Ancient Stacks and got a 13-minute Ags. Yeah, you heard that right, a 13-minute Ags with Mana Boots and no Talismans. On top of that, he has a 20-minute Crimson Guard in a game where the enemy team is primarily physical damage. And so you'll see in this team fight, this is what I'm talking about when I say this hero has the flexibility to become a carry, to scale and be the core your team needs to carry the game if it gets ahead. He literally walks up to a God Strength Sven to start the fight, hits him with a vacuum, drags him into a wall, and just bodies him with an illusion on. And usually this looks like suicide. Both of his supports are dead. PL's not even in the fight. It looks horrible. He's surrounded. Doesn't matter. He's got the Crimson Guard. He has 2,500 HP, which is freaking insane. I mean, that's just a ridiculously high number, and it sets up for an easy fight for PL. Even though at first he didn't end up killing anyone and it looks kind of mediocre, once again here, he'll walk in, he'll end up soaking a couple of autos from TA that usually would kill an underfarmed Darkseer, but he literally just easily eats them up with the help of his Crimson Guard. It once again sets up a really nice bait for his PL, another huge vacuum, and this is what I'm talking about. You can soak so much damage with the HP you provide, and just allow your team to burn out the fights and take down the enemy team. And this is why this hero is so good. Like, it's why if you get good at him, you can easily have a 60 to 65% win rate. It just requires you to study this hero's laning stage. If you want to learn more about the laning stage, I'm going to make a full laning stage guide for Darkseer on the gameleap website, which you can sign up to down below right now. Literally right after this video, I'm going to make that video. And so yeah, check it out down below. I'll see you guys in the next one, and I'm out. Peace. And that's all, but remember, before you leave, before you tune out, subscribe to the gameleap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.